So here's a weird thing I've been noticing. A lot of people seem to think that death is negotiable now, especially the health optimizer crowd. It's like if we track enough metrics and cold plunge enough and sync our bodies to enough devices, then maybe we can slip out of the human condition entirely. As if mortality belongs in the same museum case as sundials and dial-up internet. Maybe I'm exaggerating here a little bit. Most of us don't actually believe we can outrun death, but we do believe we can dodge the thought of it. We treat death like unwanted email. Don't open it, don't respond, and it might just go away. I remember walking into my oldest son's room one night when he was 5 or 6, and he was lying there under the doona, staring at the ceiling. He was completely still in the way that kids get when they're trying not to cry. And I asked what was wrong, and after a long pause, he just told me through tears, "I don't want to die." It was the first time he'd realized that he was finite, not in theory, but in his bones. And there's no script for comforting a child in that moment. You can't philosophize them out of it. You just sit beside your kid and feel the floor drop out a little. Because the thing that's terrifying him is the thing you've spent half your adult life distracting yourself from. And that contrast is what unsettles me. Kids meet death head on. As adults, we learn to build elaborate systems and structures for not thinking about it. But the older Christian tradition didn't look away. Once a year on Ash Wednesday, someone smudges your forehead and reminds you that you are dust, and to dust you shall return. It's not poetic or gentle, but it's honest. And honesty, if you stay with it long enough, has a way of clearing the air. So here's the question I want to consider. If my faith insists on reminding me I'm dust, what am I meant to do with that? What does it look like to think about death in a way that actually helps you live instead of sending you into a nightmarish spiral? And that's where Montaigne comes in, the French essayist who kept circling around death, not because he loved gloom, he just hated pretending. He wasn't trying to be profound. I think he was just trying to dismantle the fear that keeps most of us from telling the truth about our lives. For him, becoming familiar with death wasn't morbid, it was sanity. But before Montaigne, there was Saint Benedict, and he told his monks to keep death daily before your eyes, not as a threat or a performance. It was a way of trying to stay awake in a world built on distraction. And for me, that reframing helps. Death stops feeling like a shadow at the end of the hall and starts feeling like a lens. It's something that brings everything else into sharper focus. It's a reminder that I'm here on borrowed time, and borrowed things aren't meant to be gripped so tightly. So let's talk about the how. How do you actually think about death without being swallowed by it? How do you let the awareness of your finitude shape your life rather than shrink it? Well, first, you hold your life as a gift, not a possession. Montaigne saw that the more you try to control life, the more afraid you become of losing it. He wanted to live as someone receiving each day, not owning it. And honestly, that shift changes your pace. Your shoulders can loosen a bit, and it lets just regular, ordinary moments feel like actual moments. And just to be clear, this doesn't make life cheap or disposable. It's quite the opposite. Borrowed things tend to be cared for more carefully and not less. Second, pay attention to your limits. Oliver Burkeman talks about how our finitude isn't a failure or a flaw, it's what makes anything matter at all. If you had an infinite number of summers, you wouldn't care about the one happening right now. Learning to number your days isn't grim, it's a way of coming back to the life that you actually have instead of the imaginary one in some far-off future. Third, you rethink what death is. A lot of us have absorbed a version of Christianity that basically said that when you die, you float upward into something blissful and misty. But New Testament anchors hope somewhere very different, and NT Wright and others have been shouting about this from the rooftops for years. The Christian hope is resurrection, a renewed creation. It's a body made for a renewed world. It's not escape, it's restoration. Death isn't the end of the story, it's the threshold into the world that God is already remaking. And when you carry death in that light, it stops being something that you dodge and starts shaping the way you move through your days. And it also puts that achievement culture into perspective. All those longevity mantras start sounding like attempts to engineer resurrection, but on our own terms. It's a sort of DIY eternity that can't deliver anything eternal. It's impressive, sure, but it's still just fantasy. And there's this line in the Bible describing Abraham at the end of his life. He died full of years, not just old, full. A life filled with density and depth, not just duration. And that's what most of us want, deep down, I think. Not more years, but more life in the years that we have. So here's the invitation. Let death tell you something true about your life, not to frighten you. It's to help you pay attention to what's fragile and what's precious and what you can finally let go of. You are dust, but dust held by God and dust breathed into and dust destined for resurrection. As one of the old Hebrew prayers puts it, teach us to number our days that we may gain a heart of wisdom.